Next panel of a lunch. Those of you who've been here earlier on today will know that a constant theme I've been saying to sort of people and reminding them that we're in the games business, not the games charity business, which means we all have to make money. And there's no such thing as a free lunch, although you're having a free lunch now. But are you really having a free lunch? Because you've had to pay the Casual Connector organization for the tickets to sort of come here. So you've paid, but you've paid in a different way. And it's the same in the games business. Once upon a time, you would pay money in a brick-and-mortar store to buy a game, and you paid up front. And then we had web-based games where the money came from advertising, and then there's microtransactions, and there's subtle offer policies as well. So Gilad will be moderating this panel, and we have a distinguished bunch of experts here who will give you their personal opinions about how we should be making money in this business. And it's all about a business, remember, business. Thank you.
Right. So hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Just a show of hands, how many app developers do we have here? And how many of you are using apps? Using ads? Well, I think we're done then. That's fairly nice. All right, so this panel will be, I personally don't come from the field of ad monetization, so being the moderator, I'm going to ask many basic and very stupid questions, but I think it'll be helpful for everybody to know that, first of all, you need ads because, and the people will confirm, probably around 2 or 1% of your users will actually open their wallet and spend money on your game. And like Damon said in his lecture, you shouldn't ignore those 98% non-paying users you can actually make money from. So I'll let the guys introduce themselves. Go ahead, start Ollie.
Hi guys, my name's Ollie Clamp. I work for Millennial Media. I head up monetization for EMEA. Just very quickly, Millennial Media are an advertising and dating platform with global offices across the US, Europe, localized here in Hamburg as well, and also Southeast Asia.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Sigmund. I'm one of the founders and managing directors of GAN, Game@Net. We're one of the companies based here in Hamburg, so sort of a local hero almost. We are actually specialized in advertising throughout the whole gaming inventory. So we actually look on popular browser games, mobile games, casual games, social games, and gaming platforms. So we always try to unlock revenue potential of really all non-paying users wherever they are in the gaming area. So this is our special focus, what we are doing. And well, we're doing this not only in Germany, but with a very special focus on all European countries, and really helping developers to regain some more revenue potentials.
Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Petty. I work at InMobi. We're the largest independent mobile ad network with offices around the world. We do about 100 billion ad impressions a month, exclusively on mobile phones. I head up the app developer business development team, and basically work with app developers to help grow their traffic, advertise, monetize, i.e. make money in their apps, and then optimize through some of the tools we have.
My name's Damon Marshall. I head business development for Supersonic Ads. We are a leading rewards-based ad monetization platform. We have 2 very specific engagements. The first one is video. So the basic use case is watch this 30-second video and get some virtual currency or a virtual item in the game as a reward for watching that video. And then we also supply full-blown offer walls. Our platforms are both on the web as well as mobile. And we are primarily focusing on bringing brand advertisers into the gaming channel. So you may know that there are companies out there, offer wall companies, that focus quite a bit on the in-app install, independent app developer install base. We play in that market as well, but we're really making a concerted effort to bring brands to the table as well and play in this space. So,
cool. So guys, I think your average, extremely optimistic young developer imagines that he's gonna develop a game. He's not going to do any user acquisition or any ads or anything. He's going to be featured and do amazingly. I think most of developers, when they hear about ads, they think that it's, honestly, I thought so myself, it's an aging revenue model, especially now with in-app and micropayments. what do you feel about that? Won't it, like putting ads, just ruin the experience of the game, just interfere with the experience and my chances to actually have a good game?
Can I jump in first?
Let's in general, all questions are directed to all four of you.
Sure. I'm going to speak for me, and my product is a little bit different from some of the other guys up here on the panel. The first comment that you made with regards to the audience. So it's a known fact that up to 98% of your audience will never pay for something in a game. So you have to figure out other ways of monetizing a large percentage of your audience. With regards to it ruining your game, I think that the most important thing to think about is one size does not fit all in the ad monetization space. So with rewards-based monetization, we're playing right into the gameplay itself. There's no interruption. It's an opt-in experience. So in that case, users actually appreciate it and enjoy it. And the key is to get users to go to the next step in the game. And when you're rewarding users for engaging with advertising so that they can advance further in the game, it plays right into the goal of what you're trying to do, which is keep them engaged, keep them around longer. And I would make the argument that in some cases we're seeing users convert from a non-paying user to a paying user as a result of being rewarded for some of the brand engagement that they've participated in through the gameplay.
Well, if I jump in there, I guess it's probably very rule for all four of us sitting here that nobody's interested in ruining a gameplay. So because this always means ruining gameplay will also always mean actually bad conversions on advertising. Because people get really sucked off of what's happening there. They get frustrated because they can't play the game but are rebothered by advertising. So I guess we all have maybe some similar solutions, but also different solutions. And I get what we are always focusing on is really more on how can we bring actually added value to the gameplay instead of interrupting the gameplay. So all the solutions, I guess everybody's focusing on, and especially also we as Game@Net is focusing on, actually is how can we drive added value through advertising to the gameplay. And on the other side, I mean, this is mandatory for all publishers. And I guess on the other side, what is also mandatory for all publishers is not only to follow this rule, not disturbing the gameplay, but also to see a potential of really gaining new revenues through advertising. And this is probably another topic we'll talk about later on. But I guess if you follow also at the publishers these 2 points, seeing okay, where can I actually drive added value, and where do I have possibilities to gain further revenues? And I guess then you have the right setup. And at least we as a company can provide this. And maybe what makes us different in many parts, in some parts, we always look at a game as such. So we look at all possible potential to monetize a game through advertising. This could be display banners, this could be in-game video where we really try to connect this more to the gameplay. This could be in-game events, branded items. So we really look at how does a game work, what is proper, or what is suitable for a game, for the users, what is the audience behind it, and how can we engage them with advertising. So, and I guess if you keep those figures in mind, those models work really well.
So Joe, I think something I picked up on there was your comment on it being an aging revenue model, which is interesting. Yeah. So for me, mobile advertising, it's one of the fastest growing sectors of digital right now. And revenue is only going to grow even further over the next couple of years. So if you look at the percentage of your audience that are never really going to spend through in-app purchase or actually pay for a download, it's about 92%, I think. And that percentage is really key to try and monetize. Advertising, especially display, is probably the easiest gateway to driving revenue into that 92%. So something I always feel very strongly about is building a strategy around advertising just as importantly as you would around any other part of your application that has a monetization channel. So think of that strategy as not just going to an advertising network like Millennial or InMobi, and just plugging in their SDK and plugging in ads anywhere. Really think about where those ads are going to run. Look at what the user would see, where it's not going to be annoying. So maybe an interstitial placement going between game levels where there may be some loading time or some downtime where they're happy to see something else because there's nothing else to engage with at that particular time. So strategy is really key when it comes to advertising, to make sure all the boxes are ticked to help manage user experience, and also to ensure that the ads aren't annoying and people continue playing through to the game.
Patrick, want
me to jump in? So I think to some extent what Ali touched upon is starting very early in the planning of where you're going to put the ads, right? If you're designing a game and at the very last second you decide to throw a banner up, that's going to disrupt the game. While you're building the game or redesigning it, you build room for that ad. If it's not intrusive, users are very used to ads these days. I mean, we work with almost all the major game publishers out there, including, let's say, Rovio, right? And they, for a lot of their games, use banner ads, right? And their audience only continues to grow and grow. And so I think the idea that banner ads or ads in general, right, dramatically decrease the user experience or that users aren't interested, I don't think is correct. And I would say that if you talk to most of the major game publishers, they do put advertising into the game. They're moving to putting advertising in the game. And it's a mix of banner, interstitial, video, etc. But it's just all about the planning and having a strategy of how to do it versus just slapping it on.
I just want to add, what I always say is, since I've been in this industry, the focus has always been from the development side, in-app purchase. How do I get, people to buy? And all the mind share goes into in-app purchase. And when I talk to some publishers, they even think it's an either-or equation. Either I'm going to do in-app purchase, and that's going to be my monetization vehicle, or I'm going to do advertising. It's not an either-or equation. Both can work in harmony together. That's number one. And number two is, to this earlier point, if you could get some mind share to think about the advertising portion of your monetization strategy, I think that we can come up with some really innovative, creative deployments that everyone wins, the advertiser, the publisher, and the user.
I want to touch on what Daniel, you mentioned before. Do you think that there could actually be value to ads in a user experience perspective? For example, a user will never spend money in the game, but still wants to progress in the game, so wants to earn coins, stuff like that. So for example, incentivized ads or offer walls would actually be something they're expecting? Maybe that should be an audience question. I think I know your answer.
Well, when I look, especially at our in-game video solution, we don't connect this necessarily to the payment, but more focusing on the gameplay to unlock certain functions in the game where the audience really has also the possibility to try out certain functions in the game. And I guess, if you focus, and it's pretty similar to what you just said, I mean, if you focus on the right solution, and not every game has the same solution, but if you focus on the right solutions, then you're really able also to give added value to the players out there. And as I just said, for example, with our video solution, people get more into the game. They're not taken out of the game or disturbed by the game, but they're actually taken more into the depth of the game. And what I actually wanted to add just now, if we look at the market, I mean, everybody knows the market has changed extremely within the last couple years. And I guess the question nowadays is not, should I put advertising into my game, or should I try not to put it in there, but is really more to really build up a strategy. Where can I put in advertising, and how can I build up a decent strategy? And well, especially what we look at is to build up strategies and solutions where we can always guarantee a 100% fill rate, so that it's not only a product for just a few numbers of non-paying users, but a product for all non-paying users out there, which they can use every day in and out. And I guess if you have this basis that everybody, also the users, know how the game functions, how the ad solutions work in the game, and that I can use them anytime I'm in the game, and they bring added value to my game experience, then I think, and that's my experience, and also looking at the communities, I very seldomly read any comments where people say, "Oh, I hate advertising; it disturbs, and I can't play anymore." But actually, to be honest, I hear more different comments like, "Hey, that's a good idea. That brings more experience to my gameplay, and I actually it's more stickiness to the game." And I guess that's due to really the right solutions to monetize a game.
Cool. I'm wondering if you can share. I hope you can share actual numbers. Like I'm sure many developers here are thinking, okay, ads, but how much are they actually worth to me? Let's say I have 100,000 user game, 1 million user game. How much money can I actually make? Like dollar figures. That's one. And then we'll discuss like how I can monetize the best. Like where is the best place to put the ad to make the most money?
So I think this is like the $1 million question, right? Everybody wants to know how much money they can make from advertising.
So you're saying 1 million? Okay,
no, don't quote me on that. No,
No matter the size.
no, exactly. One impression. It's a really. I did want to. You did mention about trying to prepare some numbers potentially to display. It's a really hard question to answer purely on the basis that every single app out there is completely different, based on the ad placement that they have, the performance, the type of campaigns they can run. I think the one thing I would say to try and manage expectations on getting high revenues and low revenues is it all comes down to the fact of what you run and how it performs and the click-through rate you can get. So if we look at, for instance, just putting a banner ad on a homepage and it's completely away from any kind of real content, you're going to get very performance-driven campaigns. What you want to focus on to get higher revenues is where the brand dollar is, which is things like video, click to expand, rich media engagement, where we're getting much stronger brands like Universal's, your Warner Brother movie trailers, Call of Duty doing their game add-ons that are spending a lot of money on a CPM basis, which gives a revenue guarantee to you. But it looks great, it's more fitting with the content that you have, which also helps manage user experience. If you can try and get the placement in the right place to ensure that companies like ourselves are happy to display those kind of banners onto your app, then that's where the money's going to be. If you're just going in, just loading a banner in and not really putting a strategy in place as to where it's going to run and it's not very visible, you scroll up a page and the ad disappears immediately, we're not going to put a lot of focus into really driving our high revenue advertisers into that placement because it just won't perform. So it's hard to give an exact figure without seeing individual apps kind of impression levels, the click-through rate, the ad placement, but really focus on where you think brand revenue would want to spend.
I don't mind putting some numbers behind it. If you go to inmobi.com and go to the developer section, we have a developer blog, and we actually have an online calculator. And again, it's all going to depend what the eCPM is, what the click-through rate is, et cetera. But in general, right, if you're doing the math, it's, hey, how many ads do you show? So how many daily users do you have, or how many monthly users do you have? How long do they spend on the app? So how many ads are you showing per session, right? So you can calculate your total amount of ads, right? And then you either take a general eCPM, right, which is a combination of your CPC times your click-through rate. But I would say eCPMs, right, dramatic difference between what you see in the US and the UK versus Russia versus anywhere around the world. But let's say it's anywhere from, and you got 50 cents to $2 to $3 for a banner, and let's say $3 to $10 for an interstitial, right? So my take is you can do that math pretty easily, right? Some people are going to have a higher eCPM because they have a higher click-through rate, or you have an interstitial, or you have a quote better app, so you get more brand. But it's all going to be based on volume and your click-through rate and the type of ads you put in there. But if you just do a quick calculation in Excel or on a piece of paper, you can get a rough estimate of how much you're going to make depending on your traffic.
I'll jump in as well just to add some more color. So let's take video. On our end, we charge the advertiser per view. So this term that we use often is CPV, cost per view or cost per completed view. So for us, on average, what we're paying out net to the publishers is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 cents on the low end, all the way up to 6 to 8 cents on the high end. So if you think about that equates to 2 to 3 cent CPV is equal to a $20 to $30 CPM. But if you just think about, okay, if I'm going to get, say, 4 cents every time someone watches a video on my site, you can think to yourself, how many videos can I generate in a day? So when you think about microtransactions, I don't know what your average transaction amount is. It's probably higher than a few cents. But if you think about 98% of your audience is never going to pay, but they will watch a video and they consume it at a very high rate, you can make some pretty decent money by generating completed views.
Well, I think too, it's a bit difficult to give a general mathematic form to say, okay, I can tell you today how much money will you make. I think it's just important if you look at the right setup, and that's my experience also working with many of the big publishers, that you're able to at least make like 10 to 20 additional revenue if you really unlock all the potential of advertising out there. And I mean, unlocking the potential always doesn't mean disturbing users while playing, but this is really the opposite. It's giving additional value, and not only to the users, but then also additional value and revenues to you guys out there. And it's not a matter of a fear going out there and also having fear of putting ads in your games and really thinking people are running away. I can't share this experience because I've never seen a case where advertising has been integrated into the game with a proper setup where millions of people left the game. I've never experienced such a case like that. I mean, if you have, share those experience with us. I don't know how it's for you guys, but I've never experienced such a case.
We get the exact opposite when we take ours down. Again, this is rewards based, but publishers get complaints from their users. Where are the videos? We want to see more. So
That's it.
And just to add another element, as you were talking, King.com came out a few months ago and mentioned that up to 15 to 20% of their revenue now is coming from advertising. 20% of your overall revenue is a significant number. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that advertising revenue will outweigh your IAP revenue, but it is a significant portion.
Right. Okay, so I think everyone's convinced right about now. I want to move on to best practices. Let's start with something. Daniel, I know you guys require exclusivity in your network. I want to discuss that, exclusivity versus working with various networks. What do you guys think? I'll let you start, because...
Well, we always focus on exclusivity because, as I said before when I started a short introduction, our business model or business approach differs a bit from what the other guys are doing. So we rather don't focus on only one or two products which might fit into a game. We actually try to analyze a game in total and to build up a strategy how you really can monetize a game. And as I said before, all solutions we create and put into a game, we always guarantee a 100% fill rate. And so we never have any ads running empty or people not having the chance to interact or be engaged. And so we see actually the greatest potential if you work together with one partner and who really can analyze all the different possibilities in your game, starting from banners to video to other integrative stuff to real in-game advertising where brands really go into the game and be part of the gameplay. And if you find the right setup there, there's very huge potential. And my experience throughout the last couple of years is if publishers really have one strong partner working together with, they're actually also able to gain the best revenues. This doesn't mean not probably also to work with different partners on different areas, but I see a great potential if you have really, it's sort of a one-stop shop. You know, that you have one partner who takes care of the business and all the modules you have or strategies. And at least the big partners we work together with, we really are able to gain some very good results.
I'll jump in just so there's at least one point we disagree on instead of all of us all agreeing on everything. Is I would say, and to be honest, I don't know Danny's business model a lot, but I would say in 99% of the cases that I work with, I completely disagree with using exclusivity. So as an ad network, I would tell you that every app developer should work with multiple ad networks. And because depending on where you get your traffic from, right, 100% fill rate does not mean the most amount of revenue, right? You could have a 50% fill rate at a very high eCPM, let's say in Japan or China, versus 100% fill rate at a very low eCPM, right? And so through tools out there, mediation, et cetera, right, if you have worldwide traffic, right, the idea that one network can get you the highest eCPM across 30 countries, 24 hours, 7 days a week, to me, I disagree with. And so I think as a global player, right, I'm comfortable saying that because in most or almost every country, right, we're going to be number 1 or number 2 with our app developers, right? And for larger players, we have a partner manager who works with them to optimize them. We can give them a call, let them know a big campaign's coming, saying, hey, we need 100% of your traffic in China, et cetera, for the next month, and this is the eCPM you're going to get, and they can go, hey, sounds great to me. But I think working with multiple ad networks is one key strategy or best practices, and I would say that the second would be is really using some tools to segment out those users. So there's other companies besides us that do it, but we have a tool called Lifetime Value Platform that beyond showing you the usage in the app, you can create a segment for any type of user you want. So you can say, hey, everyone who comes in, who's come in at least 4 times, and doesn't doesn't buy anything, put them in a segment. And on the very opposite side, everyone who spends at least $10, put them in a segment. So you can create any 10 segments you want. And then off of those segments, you can have predefined actions. That right there is a very easy way to make sure that you do not show ads to high-value consumers, that you're showing them promotions and discounts. And on the flip side, make sure you're monetizing those 90% of users, because those 90% of users you now have in a segment or across a couple segments, and you can tailor specific ads. So I think using tools to segment out your users and then also working with multiple ad networks is the key.
All right, but exclusive versus non-exclusive.
I tend to agree with Patrick, not to team up on you here, Daniel, but not one company, at least in my business, not one company can secure 100% of the budgets that are out there that are coming in, nor can one company potentially fill 100% of the revenue unless they're giving you some really remnant inventory on that second half of the audience. So I encourage people, all the publishers, to test out a few different providers, understand where their sweet spots are. Not to do a shameless plug here, but we also developed a platform that allows our publishers to plug in our competitors, and then we serve the highest paying video in real time. So at that point in time, you're really maximizing revenue at that point. And I think it's key that you use a few different partners to make sure that you're optimizing and maximizing revenue.
Just jumping in there, I mean, I actually agree in many points of what you two just said. And I guess a very important point always to figure out, and there's every publisher or developer has a different setup. Always when it comes to the steering. So really getting the most potential and the highest revenues. Sure, it's always difficult just to work with one partner, and we work with a bunch of different partners throughout the whole world. But where I see a great benefit, and this surely also depends from the internal setup, but I know many publishers who don't really have this focus, also human focus of people working in the company on advertising. So many of the publishers, what is right, focus on the game and everything which has to do with the game, rather than focusing on the whole ad monetization. And where I see a great potential, if you have a partner, for example, like us, we gather all the different partners out there and try to get out best revenues from all different partners in the different countries. And this actually helps you steering what you're doing there, and helps you also to actually don't really have a great need to build up a huge team all over the world taking care of advertising partners. But you have, as I said before, like a one-stop shop and taking care of the advertising solution while still working together for sure. I mean, otherwise it wouldn't be possible with different partners, agency, networks, and whatever. But always really then getting the highest CPMs out of it.
I think just one point we've probably missed as well with regard to working exclusively, which I actually disagree with. I think it's something that was very early on in the industry. You needed to do it to secure traffic. There's too many impressions out there and too many apps that need monetization, and every network has a different kind of way of monetizing. Some more brand focused with very low fill. Some are very kind of performance driven where it's 100% fill but very low eCPM. So you need a blend of each. But the other key thing is that everyone's building traffic in from multiple countries, and no network on their own can be the strongest possible network in every single market in the world. So
you guys should just join forces, the InMobi Millennial merger. And
well, that's what mediation's for, right? So that's where mediation kicks in, because mediation allows developers to plug everybody in and use everyone, whatever their strongest markets are, to maximize that revenue from that particular partner, and then move on to others. And then in other markets like the US or UK or whoever's strongest there, then build out additional partners where, you know, everyone's going to be slightly different in each market with different strengths.
Right.
So without mediation and with working exclusively, you don't get the benefit to work with multiple partners in multiple countries.
Can I choose which ads appear in my app? Is that something you allow?
I'll start that one, shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
So you can choose to a certain extent. So we have a platform called mmedia.com. It effectively allows you, when you set up the SDK and set up your tags, to go in and pick categories on two levels. So the first one is the categories of ads that you don't want to run, which helps manage kind of irrelevant campaigns. So those categories could range from things like dating to alcohol to ringtones,
all the bad
downloads,
stuff,
that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. So there's kind of two benefits. There's benefit to it and a downside. The benefit is that it will actually take out any irrelevance and it'll allow more premium campaigns to run. The downside is the more channels you block, the lower your fill rate is going to be. So you have the opportunity to be able to do it. Most people don't allow you to do it very specifically because we have our own campaign rules that we need to try for performance and for delivery. But there's definitely facilities through online tools to be able to do that.
Well, I would say it's actually mandatory for everybody that as a publisher, developer, has a chance also to say, okay, looking at my game, there are certain ads, certain campaigns, certain advertisers I can't run for various reasons, and I guess it's really necessary and mandatory that a partner is able to block those kind of advertisings, and then really to give you those campaigns, those advertisers, which really suit your game. And I guess it's the same for all of us. Yeah. We all need to look always, and this is actually the first step, we look at the audience. What kind of target groups do we actually address? What kind of target groups do you address? And looking at the different target groups, there's a different setup from the different advertisers and brands out there. And I guess we are all common on that, having a distinguished focus on the different setups. I guess there's nobody from us sitting here saying, I'm sorry, I can't block any specific ads. You have to take everything or just leave it. So I guess that's a very basic standard.
It depends on what what the payoff is. Do you want more money in exchange for perhaps non-relevant ads, or do you want to be a little bit more specific and filter some of the stuff out? We filter as well. One thing that I wanted to say was, for us, I get a lot of publisher requests that they don't want any competing apps being advertised in the app that's running, and that's a very that's a viable thing to request. So, for example, we can take out all CPI campaigns out of an offer wall. But when you do that, you have to realize that you're also giving up a substantial portion of revenue. App installs is a very frictionless engagement that converts quite well. So when you do that, there will be an eCPM hit. But again, you just have to weigh what's more important to you, the types of ads that are running or revenue.
Right. I want to wrap up with one last question. If you can give like 1 or 2 tips, but actual usable tips for all the indie developers that don't really have a team for ads, or they don't have no idea where to put the ad. So where would you put it? What kind of ad? Yeah.
Well, I'll answer that by saying, as soon as you sign up with us, we assign you what we call a growth manager. So we have a growth team. So once you're signed up and you've integrated, you have a particular person that's going to look at your app specifically and give you best practices so that you're not just sitting out there on your own.
And that's with any sized app?
Any sized app has an account manager, and that account manager's charter in our company is to grow revenue month after month with that particular developer. So you're not alone, at least not in my company, and I've heard that you guys do the same thing. So don't get too daunted by dipping your toes into this process if you don't have someone that's dedicated to this. We're all experts. Our company, all of our companies have integrated multiple apps. We can look at yours and know how to integrate. So those resources are available to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're a utility app, you're probably not going to be doing interstitials. You're probably just massive high volume, and you're going to be putting a banner at the bottom or at the top. Think about where you want the ad near the content, not in the middle of nowhere. But you need to weigh that against having it right next to a button so you're not getting a lot of random clicks, et cetera, because in the end that's going to hurt your business. So not to be vague, but, and then I think if you're a game, then I think I'd use a combination of banners and interstitials. Where is there a natural pause in the game that you could put that interstitial or that rich media ad? But it's not daunting to get going. It's really not hard. It's you can integrate any SDK if you're a developer in 15 minutes. My take is if you have one person spending 20% of their time on monetization, right? They spend half a day integrating an SDK that has mediation. You set up a couple accounts with ad networks, right? You say what kind of ad units you want, what type of advertisers you want, and then you can either check it once a day and figure out in what countries what ad networks are the strongest, or it's once a week. But it's definitely an ROI situation. You will make a lot more money if you have any traffic than the amount of time it's going to take you to do it. So don't think that, hey, this is rocket science and it's a massive amount of time. It's the opposite on both.
Yeah, but I feel like you can quantify what you earn from the ads, but you can't quantify what you might lose from putting the ads in regards to user experience. So that's where I feel like...
Well, that's not true. I would say, one, if you read statistics out there, very few people stop playing in a game because of ads, right? I think that's pretty proven. But if you think that's the case, right, there's a lot of A/B testing software out there. I'm not trying to plug. There are a lot of programs out there, not just ours, but in our tool you can A/B test. Let me give half my users ads and half not ads, and see what happens. Right? If you see massive drop off, then I was full of crap, and let me know. I'd love to know. But on the flip side, you maybe get a 1% decrease in total page views. But on the flip side, you are now making $1,000 to $10,000 a day.
Right. But I guess what's important, as you just said, it's not rocket science, and all the solutions we have, they're actually always easy to implement, very basic stuff. And what I can see oftentimes, it's a step-by-step process. So if you once decide to say, okay, I see really great revenue potential, including advertising into my game, and there are different solutions, and there's no need in jumping into every solution at once, but to start off with certain things, do some learnings, and see how you can get forward in that process. And so, I mean, sure, everybody wants to make as much money as fast as possible, but most of the developers, most of the publishers try to build up portfolio, more long-lasting portfolio. So it's more or less a step-by-step process until you find the right setup for your game. And if you do those steps and also build different categories of users and try to build up different setups and then really go into that process, there's actually no way to fail. At least, but as I said, I've never seen or heard from a publisher who said, I've integrated advertising, actually, I think it was right, and because I especially addressed the non-paying users, and I didn't disturb the gameplay or whatever, but they were all away after a week. I've never seen something like that.
I think it's up to all the publishers out here, all the developers. I mean, it's another thing to test. You're testing everything. You should be able to separate your paying users from your non-paying users. That's like a basic thing right there. So right away, you may want to only serve ads to your non-paying users. But serving an ad is like anything else in a game. You serve a button to initiate someone to purchase something, and how did that work? So you're constantly testing if you want to put the same investment that you're putting into your IAP monetization strategy into your ad-based strategy. Then you're looking at similar tests and figuring out what works.
Yeah, I think and you mentioned it there about targeting advertising to free users only and also not non-paying. You can actually, if you have the right ad serving tools in place and you have everything set up correctly, you can actually look at free users, not serve them any advertising for the first couple of weeks, look at the threshold as to when they are going to start spending in-app, and if they're going to, from that point, never spend at all, start serving them advertising from that point, so you're not risking any other potential revenue coming through other streams that you have set up in the application. So I think...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I was going to say, so I think ad serving is key, and also ad placement. So as has already been mentioned, utilize the teams that we all have to hand that can guide you through the right ad placement. Don't just throw an ad in via an SDK or whatever solution you have in place and just hope for the best. It's really got to have a lot of thought put in place, and I think strategy is probably the one word that I would leave behind today.
I was just going to say that, you know, publishers, some of my publishers don't show an ad for the first 30 days of users in their app. You know, it's not like day one they're getting showered with apps. That's one way of doing it. I have other publishers that within 2 days can predict with 85% accuracy whether a user is going to pay or not pay. And so after 2 days, they may start monetizing differently for those types of users. So again, it's up to you guys as a data-driven business to make those decisions, whether they be in-app purchase decisions or advertising decisions.
And that can all be managed by frequency as well. So you can cap how frequently any user sees an ad during that session. So if you only want to see them see one ad once every 4 hours, that can be completely managed, which also helps.
I guess one really important thing is you guys got the control. It's not that we do some stuff and you don't have any control anymore of what's going on and you think somebody's controlling my inventory. But it's the total opposite. You always have the control, and we are partners helping you to really build up different tools to make more money. But it's always important that you have the control of what it's doing, and you can make the decisions of how far you want to go, when you want to show people ads, what kind of ads, where in this world, and whatever you want to do. So it's at the end it's up to you, and we can just help you to find the right solutions and make the right decisions.
All right. I think everyone's ready to put ads in their games right now. Any questions? They weren't that clear.
Hello, my name is Marlon. I just want to address Damon with a question. Your video product sounds very interesting, with an average of 4 cent CPV. Can you tell me how high the fill rate is and how reliable such a solution is for my players regarding the game balance, that not the one player gets the money and the other one not?
Well, so fill rates are a bit tricky. It depends on, you know, your territory and how much of how big your audience is. But you know, our button, the watch and earn button, is dynamic. So if there isn't an ad to be watched, a user doesn't see the button in order to initiate the ad in the first place. So we're very careful not to have a bad user experience where someone wants something and they can't get it. But you know, in just to answer the fill rate question, I mean, we on the low end we're somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50% in some outlier markets, but in strong markets like the U.S., Western Europe, even Australia and some other parts of the world, we have fill rates as high as 90 or 100%. So it just depends on territory and audience size.
Okay, well, a question from me. I wonder if you could describe the technology that you use for displaying adverts and reporting those back offline. I have my tablet, I'm going to sit on a plane for 9 hours to go back to Seattle. I'm going to play a few games. Will I see adverts? Will I see lots of adverts? And then when I get back and reconnect to the web, how are you going to go about charging or generating revenue from that?
I can start with that one. So we actually don't work with anybody from a level of supplying ads in an offline environment. For one main reason, we can't track performance. Like, we can't see if anyone's clicked through, and obviously they can't because there's no connections. They can't go through to landing page. So with most ads, especially if they're performance driven, are going to be click to App Store, it's going to be click to call, it's going to be click to landing page. You can't make any of those actions in an offline environment. So we won't run campaigns that run in that environment purely for that reason, because it doesn't relate back to the advertiser for
But
performance.
no brand lift awareness in terms of, I see a Coca-Cola advert every...
But even with brand now, they want performance.
Yeah.
So if they're watching a video ad, for instance, I mean, we run ours slightly differently. We run it on a CPM basis, so it's a guaranteed cost, but it's purely brand. So they want to see how long people have viewed that video for. Also, those videos have click to actions as well. So the video finishes, you've got call to actions to watch the video again, share on Facebook, link through to landing page, find out more about the movie, potentially even go through and book online tickets to go and see it in the cinema. You can't do any of that in an offline environment. So for that reason, I think the performance that goes back is irrelevant, and everything needs to be run in a live online environment.
So speaking very cynically, if I have my tablet and I get my free app, if I switch off the Wi-Fi connection and I play the game, I'm not going to see any adverts in the product?
Not from us.
Well, it's the same with us, and then looking actually at the brand side, you will hardly find anybody who pays you money without being able to see any results at the end. And so every advertiser wants to see the results, and because they need to compare their campaigns on all different platforms. And so if you serve some kind of ad without people being online, so being able to interact in any form, or watch a video, or see the view time, the visibility, or whatever it is, it's very hard actually to make a sale on that. So our focus, or what we do, is just serving ads when people are online.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're the same.
I think the gameplay suffers when you're not connected. Most apps need connectivity to serve you what's going on in the app or the game. So I think that's a corner case. And again, yeah, we can't serve without being connected.
Any more questions for the panel?
Yeah. What about the Chinese market? Are they also serving video ads for Chinese market?
We're very active in China, and we're seeing massive growth. So we have a very large office in China. South Korea is a massive market. If you're not active in South Korea, I would tell you to get active, do user acquisition in South Korea. China, our forecast for China and the growth versus any other region is massive. So yeah, we definitely, we don't do incentivized video, but we do rich media and interstitials and banners in China. The budgets coming in from all different types of companies is just unbelievable. So I wish I was the GM of China.
I think China's certainly a growth market when it comes to all types of advertising on mobile. But if you're looking at video specifically, the US is a very mature market on video right now. The UK is certainly growing. It didn't really start kicking in properly until last year. The growth on that has been about 120%, I think it was, on the UK revenue that was released by the IAB. Germany and France are starting to spend on video as well for brand, but it's a massive education process for people like us in the market and our sales teams that are going out. It's certainly growing, but video still has a huge amount of growth over the next 12 to 24 months, absolutely. Probably the largest out of the whole sector.
We think that videos, we're definitely on the long haul for video. It's got a ways to go, but we think it's by far, and it's emulated on television and then online on the web. Video has been the default sort of effective advertising vehicle, and we think that that's going to continue to mobile. It's just a matter of education and getting these agencies comfortable with where their ads are running.
Anyone else? All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
That's great. Thank you.
We have